Hi everyone, welcome back to the next diecast. In today's video, I'll be showing you and reviewing this 1/18 scale Lexus SC430 convertible made by Maisto. I got this model off of eBay for around $42 in total. Kind of on the higher side for a Maisto 1/18 scale model, but this is a discontinued model, and it's pretty well detailed, and it actually came in that special Lexus box that you saw in my unboxing video I did of this model. I don't know the background of the Lexus printing and everything on the box, aside from maybe that the model was sold at like a Lexus dealership or something like that. But Maisto did release this as like a regular release model in their regular box, and the details of this one and the regular release are identical. So Maisto actually made two different versions of the SC430. They made a version with the roof up and a version with the roof down, which is what you see here. So the roof down versions of the model come in the nice silver that you see here with the beige interior, a bright red with the beige interior, as well as a gold with the beige interior. And the roof up versions come in black with the black interior and in gold with the beige interior. And Barago also made their own Lexus SC430 model. Their version was a roof up version and it came in dark blue and silver. And the details in that one are pretty similar to the details on the Maisto version from what I've seen, which is kind of interesting to see that. But I think as a whole, this model is overall well detailed. And I think it's much, much better in terms of detail than the Motormax version that I also have. And I will be doing a comparison video of both these models in the near future to kind of compare and contrast the various details and features that they have. The SC430 came out in 2001 for, I believe, the 2002 model year in real life. It was notable for its retractable hardtop roof that it came with, and they produced this car until 2010. It was actually the last car produced from the factory with a cassette player. So we'll go ahead and take a look at the details of the model here. We'll begin up here with the front. I think Maisto did a good job with the headlights for the most part. There is kind of a small gap between the hood and where the headlight in this corner is, but that's not a big deal. You can't really see unless you look at it like kind of closely. There are some pegs in the lights, but Maisto does kind of hide those as almost like bulbs a little bit. So I thought that was kind of a cool touch that they had on there. And they do a nice overall job of molding in like the different shapes you see with like the different lenses and the light bulbs and everything. The center grille here is actually well done as well. It is done in chrome plastic, and it will be chrome on the real car as well. And you have kind of a three-dimensional Lexus badge molded in the center of it, which looks very well done. And you have this license plate down here too. And on the lower portion of the bumper, you do have separately cast fog lights, which are a nice touch. And yeah, there's a peg in the center of each one, but at least they're separate pieces and not just, painted on. Speaking of painted on, the turn signals are unfortunately just painted on. I'm not really sure why they chose to paint these on, because these are actually fairly large turn signals when you compare it to the rest of the bumper on the models. I think Maisto could have maybe done these as separate pieces, but they just painted them on. But I don't think that's a huge deal, because a lot of Maisto's models have the painted on turn signals, but it would have been nice to see those as sort of separately cast on plastic pieces. The overall paint quality on this model, I would say, is excellent. The silver looks really cool, I think, on this particular car, and it pairs up well with this beige interior, which I believe Lexus calls the ecru interior. But it's nice and smooth throughout, and everything kind of has a nice like metallic finish to it and whatnot. If you get the silver version that you see here or the gold version, they will be kind of a metallic finish. The bright red, I think, is non-metallic, and I'm not really sure about the black for the roof up version. I think it's just the regular like glossy black, but I think the silver honestly looks the best on this. So if you decide to get this model, I would say definitely go for the silver top down version, because I think silver just really suits this particular car quite well. Taking a look at the side, I think Maisto actually did a great job with the overall look and proportion of the wheels here. Unlike the Motormax version, these wheels are the right size. You have kind of the huge center portion, all the molded in lug nuts. These are 5-spoke wheels. If there's disc brakes and calipers behind these, I can't see them. I don't think Maisto put those on there because they're pretty much impossible to see with how thin these spokes are. But I think they do an overall good job with molding these wheels and putting in the right overall look and shape to them. And of course, with the model, you do get full steering and suspension too, which is nice to see. And the tires are actually the right size compared to the wheels too, unlike the Motormax version. The overall panel gaps, I think, on the model are pretty good for the most part. There is kind of a large-ish one up here, but I mean, you can't really tell unless you look at it from like certain angles and everything. The panel gap back here, I think, is actually better done. And if you get a darker color of this model, you won't see any of the panel gaps because they'll kind of blend into like the dark paint and everything. And back here, you'll see that there are painted on rear turn signals, which is kind of unfortunate, but I guess just because they painted the ones on in the front, they were gonna paint the ones on in the back too. So not a big deal, I guess, but it would have been nice to see, you know, both sets of turn signals as kind of separately cast plastic pieces, but you can't ask for too much detail, I suppose. And then back here, you'll see that there are nice looking taillights for the most part. Maisto, I think, does a good job with the overall shape of them, and I think all the coloring is proper. You have kind of the little turn signals in the centers. Yeah, there are pretty obvious pegs, unfortunately, but I guess if you look at it from certain angles, they're kind of hard to say, but if you look at it from this angle, they are pretty obvious. But aside from that, I think the taillights look decent for the most part. And back here, you do have the Lexus and the SC430 badges and the Lexus inscription on this side. They do kind of blend in because they're silver badges on a silver car. Of course, on the real car, they would actually be chrome, but I think Maisto does a good job of kind of attempting to make them look good back here. If you opt for a different color of this model aside from silver, you'll definitely see the badges a little bit better, but I still think the silver is like the best color for the model here. But and looking at the exhaust pipes down here, they are done in chrome, pretty typical of, you know, these Maisto models, but at least they're kind of molded in the right shape and everything. And they do have some black painted on the inside to kind of simulate the insides of the exhaust tips. So in terms of opening features on the model, we will start back here with the rear trunk, which opens up like so. Pretty decent sized trunk back here. A kind of unusual feature is that, as you can see, of course, on the model, the roof is actually folded down. If this were the real car, you would actually see the folded down roof back here. I kind of wish Maisto replicated maybe like, you know, the folded roof with like a single piece of plastic and painted it silver or something, but they didn't go to that effort. If you were to get the version of the model with the roof up, then this is how the trunk would properly look if it were the real car. I guess Maisto didn't want to make two different trunk pieces, so they just ended up making a single, you know, trunk molding and didn't include the folded back roof. But that would have been kind of a cool addition in there. And it would have looked, you know, more proper for them to have that roof piece in here. Maisto made a model of the 2005 Mercedes SLK, where on the top-down version of that model, you saw like a plastic like roof piece back here. But I mean, aside from that, the trunk does look pretty good for the most part. You have kind of a spare tire back here. It all has kind of a nice texture to it and everything. On the real trunk, it wouldn't actually be all beige. The front portions would be beige, and the rear portions would actually be black. But Maisto just kind of did the whole trunk as kind of a single beige color. Not a big deal, I guess, because they did get, I think, the overall shape and everything in here correct, aside from the, you know, absent roof panel. But again, if you opt for the models that have the roof up on them, then this would be the proper look to the trunk. So next we'll take a look at the engine detailing of the model. Of course, you do have the opening hood up here. So we'll take a look at the engine next. Decent detailing in the engine here, the 4.3 liter, as you can see right there. It is just a single plastic piece, but it's actually a very well detailed plastic piece, I should say. You do see some different coloring and everything throughout. You even have a Lexus badge in that center of the main block there. You have some kind of silver detailing there, various labels throughout. You can see through some parts of the engine, so there is some kind of like three-dimensional effect to it. This engine, I would say, could use a little bit more detailing, but I think what they have there looks just fine for the most part. I think they do a solid effort with this engine, despite being a single plastic piece. And you actually do have a liner underneath the hood, which is a nice touch. Let's take a look next at the interior detailing. I did forget to mention that the windshield is actually metal and part of the car, so it's very, very sturdy. You can actually pick up the car by the windshield, and the side mirrors are actually very well done too. They're plastic pieces, but they're nice and sturdy, which is nice to say. So in terms of interior detailing, of course, you do have the opening doors. They open up on spring-loaded hinges, and they are a little bit, you know, tight to open and close. So just be careful with that. You have to kind of open them up like nice and slow. If Maisto were to re-release this model today, the doors would be, I guess, pretty similar, but the spring-loaded hinges would be a little bit more easier to work with and everything. But I mean, aside from that, the interior detailing on this model, I would say, is very, very well done, especially compared to the Motor Max version You can see already that, all the fine detailing is definitely present. Like all the buttons are printed on the center stack there. That Lexus badge on the steering wheel, along with the overall, look and texture of like the wood grain finish on the model, just looks fantastic. On the door panels, they are very well detailed. You even have kind of like a leather pattern going across the side, almost like leather like wrinkles too, which looks fantastic. And you have the nice wood grain effect going across the top here, and kind of a nice like leather pattern with this black portion here too. Now, this kind of light colored wood is actually proper. The SC430 came with, I think, two different choices of wood grain in the cars. You had kind of a lighter wood grain, which is what you see here, and kind of a darker brown wood grain. I think newer versions of the car all came with a darker brown, but the earlier versions, like the 01 to 05 versions, definitely had this lighter color as an option. And most of the models that you'll be seeing of the SC430 come with the lighter color of wood grain. But anyway, back to the door panels. Overall, great detailing. You even have kind of the little red reflector down there and the speaker down there, and even the window buttons are actually painted on. So Maisto did a really good job with this overall. And you do have the functional door pockets too, which are very cool. As I said, detailing on the dashboard and center stack is very well done. All the buttons are actually labeled on here. You even have the small Lexus inscription underneath that on that wood panel. On the real car, this wood panel would open up to reveal more buttons, and this wood panel would open up to reveal a screen. But Maisto did replicate the section that's exposed without a wood panel very well. You see all the different buttons on there and everything. You can even read some of them too if you look very, very close. But I think they did a fantastic job overall. And you have a nice texture going on the dashboard here, and nicely molded vents too. And the wood grain look actually has a different texture from the black portion of the dashboard, which is nice attention to a detail there. And on the steering wheel, Maisto did a fantastic job with that too. A nice kind of leather pattern going across the black portions, and you have a nice kind of Lexus badge going on in the middle there. And they also do a great job with the wood grain texture that you see. They kind of carry that over from the dashboard. Nice looking shifter too. A little bit too bright, I think, compared to the rest of like the wood texturing in the car, or like the wood coloring, I should say. But I think they do a decent job with that for the most part. And the seats, Maisto does a fantastic job with. They look and feel like the real seats, very kind of convincingly so. They even have like the leather wrinkles that you would see, as if somebody had sat in them. They just do an excellent job with these seats, and even with the back seats too. It's kind of hard to see like the pronounced texture with this camera, but they do an excellent job. They even have the separately cast seat belts with all four seats too. Kind of cheap looking seat belts, but at least they have those there to begin with. And they do have the molded in buckles as well. And you have this nice kind of a plastic piece here that would be kind of a piece of glass on the real car. This would pop up once the top is actually folded back. Now here's kind of a better view, I guess, of the seats here. You have kind of that nice like wrinkled texturing on the seat bottom and the seat back. Excellent job. And Maisto does do the proper size and proportions for the seats too, unlike the Motor Max version. So that's just really cool to see that. And you do have well-detailed pedals. Unlike the Motor Max version, these do not fold up from the floor. They're actually kind of mounted behind the dashboard as they should be. So Maisto, I think, did a good job with those too. And even the gauge cluster too. It's actually a separately cast chrome piece, and you have kind of three different chrome gauges three different chrome circles for each of the three gauges, which Maisto does an incredible job with detailing too. Overall, a very well-detailed interior for a Maisto model from the 2000s. And I don't even think I'm finished there, because I forgot to mention you do actually have the Lexus badges on the seat backs and the storage pockets, which is like you can actually put stuff in the storage pockets on the backs of the seats. Incredible attention to a detail for a budget model, I would say, for sure. But yeah, again, a very well-detailed interior for a Maisto model from the 2000s. Definitely better than the Motor Max version. And we'll take a look at the undercarriage of the model, last but not least. Decent detailing. It is all chrome, but that's typical of these Maisto models. I guess it could use a little bit of like a less chrome look to it, maybe some more silver instead of chrome. There is some like rubbing off back here. I think that's just leftover tape that didn't fully come off when I took off the shipping strap that held the trunk shut. But aside from that, not really too much to say. They do a nice, I guess, 3D effect back here with the exhaust pipes and like the different components you see with like the suspension and everything. But not too much to say aside from that. So if you can find this model for a good price, I would say definitely get it. The SC430 I think was a unique car and actually one of my favorite Lexus models for sure. Probably that and the LC convertible are my two favorite cars made by Lexus. But this model should be fairly, easy to find. You can get it for anywhere between, $30 and $50 on eBay and whatnot. And I definitely would recommend getting this convertible version. And if you can find the version that comes with that special Lexus box, like mine here, I'd say definitely get that one too, because it does seem like it's sort of like a more rare version of this model. But overall, I think this model would go well in your collection if you collect like Lexus models or Japanese cars or interesting cars from the 2000s, like I collect. So as always, feel free to comment down below with your thoughts on the model, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching.